3, 2, 1.
Very hard to do in Los Angeles right now as an art major, as an artist.
As I've said before many times, I'm a failed artist.
I think that's the MO of artistry, isn't it? Like, I think you've got to keep failing.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Like, there's failure.
Yeah.
As an artist.
Why is failure important, do you think?
I think that, well, I think it asks the question of you. I think you fail, you try to do something, you fail, and then within that failure is the question, you know, and you've got to work with it, I suppose, you know, or you can go fail, I'm off, out of here, and I suppose we all do that too sometimes, like, this project, I tell you, it's a failure. But maybe by asking the question that failure asks you, by answering the question, then you move on to another failure, but at least maybe you got closer.
So the failure, I suppose by failing, when you do something that you feel kind of failed to do something, you have a clear idea of what it was you were trying to achieve. Is that it? Do you think?
Yeah, I think it gets you closer to. I mean, in performance, I think that's one of the issues with performance is you fail. You know, it's with live art performance anyway, you fail, and that's scary. I think that's scary.
Do you think that the risk of failure is far greater in performance because there's an unpredictability about it?
Yeah, because you were out there like looking like a goose, you know. Sorry, goose. A geese.
When did you introduce performance into your practice?
I did it from really early.
Yeah.
Really, when I was at art school, I did it.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it came from. Just, I mean, I've never really been a performance person, and I'm still not I don't know what it. I always think of performance people are like, you know, out there and confident, and my performances aren't like that anyway. And but no, I just thought it was a way to say something, and it is. It's a very effective way to say something, and it has. Sometimes people go, oh, it's got an awful history, or it's full of angst, or it's whatever. But I think it is a very effective way to say something. And now my performance, as it's developed, is all mixed up. So it's mixed up with drawings and with. So I'll have all that stuff around me and sound and stuff, and that's the work. Yeah. So
maybe it's a more effective way of making a statement without being didactic.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You can tell a story.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about the you know, your work deals with borders. You're interested, or really what fuels you here is a sense of social justice.
Right.
And
well, that sounds a bit, yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. That's yeah. When I hear you say that back to me, I think, oh, but yeah. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. This is my reading of
yes
of your work. Tell me about the work that you have developed for the SPAN exhibition at the Fremantle Arts Centre.
Oh, well, I did an artist in residence. You know, Fremantle Arts Centre is an amazing. Sorry, this is digressing a bit, but you know, it's an amazing facility here in Perth. Coming back and seeing it. Anyway, they offered me an artist in residence, which I did for 6 months. And I thought, this is it, I'll work with sound in this artist in residence. So I did. So this work is a sound work. It has all the bits in it that I wanted to pursue. It has painting in it. It has 15 paintings. It has audience interaction. So the audience actually walk into the space and make the work with me, with the sound. So they make the sound. They sing with me, we all sing together, we speak together. So there's a narrative that goes on, which is, I started off wanting to make an opera, And so I did these 15 paintings, which have some text on them. So they're like the surtitles, you know, in opera. So I walk around, and we all walk around, the audience and I. There's a sound work within the room that you can, everyone can access. So it has wires and things that make sound, amplified sound. And then we walk around and tell a story, and it's really it's a simple story, but a story that occurs a lot today of a family that has to leave their place of home and have to go somewhere else to find a new home. So it's as simple as that, and it's as complex as that, you know, and it's as awful as that.
Mm. And it's a very specific story.
It's a story of one family, yeah. A large family, but it's a story of one family getting on a boat and to find a new home, because they have to, because they've been pushed out by political circumstance, which is mostly war, isn't it? Although climate change, I think, is going to be the next political circumstance. But
And it has a particular resonance as well at the moment politically within Australia.
Oh yeah. And of course it has all that within Australia, but then it has, you know, that, for me anyway, it has a political resonance with the original owners of Australia as well, which I think is, you know, it's the same story. So we work together. Mostly I've done it with audiences of 40 people within the room, and I've done it with audiences of 5 and 10. But 20, 30, that's the way it went at the last festival. It was good. It worked really well. You know.
Will you do this every day? With the
I don't think I'll do it every day, but I'll do it during the beginning of it for the first. But I could do it every day. I'll have to talk.
It's a fairly long run, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a long run. But it is, it's kind of interesting, as I'm sort of interested in performance as endurance, or endurance performance, or whatever you call it. So I'll have to talk to the curators and see how we're going to organise that. We haven't really talked about that yet, apart from doing it at the beginning, for some time.
You were telling me that you spent a year overseas as well on a Fulbright scholarship living in New York.
Right.
What you must have now some insight into what's happening in America at the moment, particularly when we're talking about issues to do with borders.
We're going to build a wall. It's interesting because I did quite a lot of work in El Paso, you know, which is where the big. I mean, there's a wall there now. It's a see-through wall, but it's a big detention mesh fence, which is, don't quote me, but it's 5 metres high, perhaps maybe more, and it goes for a long, long way. And I went and did work in El Paso, where the border comes right. You know, the Mexican border, US border is between the twin towns of El Paso and Juarez. Yeah. So I worked there. Oh yeah, I think it's it's a concern for. But you know, most of Mexico, there's an awful lot of Mexico. I worked with Mexicans in New York, and just because, you know, there's many Mexicans, and I'd go. I did a project where I walked through New York for that year, and I'd speak Spanish. I'd go, well, this week I'm only speaking Spanish, and my Spanish is minimal, you know. So I'd just speak Spanish almost as part of the performance. So this was an on-street performance, which went from one end of New York up into the Bronx. And so I'd speak Spanish, and so I'd talk to all the Mexican guys standing mostly outside the kitchen, back doors of kitchens, you know. And there's many Mexicans there, and undocumented people. I mean, fundamentally America is a very generous country, the US, for giving people homes, has been for a long time and still is. There's an enormous number of people provided with a home and a place to be in the US. and I think that, yeah, I mean, I found that quite heartening. I found that generosity quite heartening, and but it was great. It's a beautiful scholarship. Fulbright scholarships are beautiful scholarships to get and to work with. I worked at Parsons at the New School, but I mostly worked by myself and mostly did performance on the streets, which is kind of nice. In New York, but wherever you are in the US, they're very turned on to, very easy to engage, and in fact they're so engageable that it's hard to do performance sometimes, because they'll come and photograph you and kind of talk to you and give you a bit of advice.
Do you think that's got a lot to do with, I always think of Americans being very extroverted, and they're almost like they're brought up to be camera ready. You know, Australians were a bit more kind of
bit more reticent, aren't we?
Yeah, it's all poppy thing.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah. But yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was good. I'd like to get back to the US, and I will. I'll go back and do some more work.
What was the work that you did in El Paso?
I did a piece about the border, and I worked with. It was a mishmash because the border was so close, you know, so it's right in your face, you know. And for me, it was a research piece which then became part of my PhD, in fact. But the river, you know, the river is right there, and it's a dangerous place. So it was. I worked there that was kind of, I don't know, I'm sure it'll never see the light of day again, but it was an interesting step on for me. But El Paso then, and Juarez particularly, was very dangerous in terms of being killed, being murdered, you know, the murder rate was high. And even in El Paso, you kind of, but just the vision of, or the view of people coming across a border with a day pass or a shopping pass, you know, walking over a bridge over the river and over the border was kind of interesting. Yeah, it was.
It's a very. I've looked at that border on Google Earth, and I find it fascinating because there's a really clear demarcation between third world and first world.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly, and certainly in terms of income. You know, I think you go from 40,000 in the US or something like that. Anyway, my figures probably aren't right, but the gradient is huge across that border in terms of annual income. Yeah, huge. It's no wonder that people want to go live in the US. And of course they do. And I had a really interesting conversation there with a guy who lives there, and he puts out, he's a rancher, right? And you'd think, ranchers, but I thought that, you know, they would be very opposed to people coming across, climbing the border, then coming across through the desert. And yet he used to put out water and food because he said, well, you can't let them die, you know?
Yeah.
And so he'd put out stuff and kind of help them on their journey, you know. So there's quite a lot of that goes on, and of course there's groups that work all along the border, but then there's groups of vigilantes that work all along the border too. So you have you have this kind of democracy in action, I suppose.
Yeah. So like the local American population, you know, unofficially guarding the border.
Yeah. But then there's other people that go out and leave water, you know, and leave food, like leave it in buy places and go back and replenish it each week and kind of that sort of stuff. So I think that's one of the great things about America. People do go and do it, you know, they don't just talk about it, they go do it.
Coming back to Australia then after that experience, how was it? How was it settling back in Australia, given what you'd experienced in America? I mean, did it give you a different perspective on how we think about those issues here?
I did. It did. I think I came back and I felt I couldn't make any work when I came back for a while, for maybe 12 months. I was just like, what? You know, what happened? One, what happened to me there, and two, what have I come back to? But then, of course, you realise that Australia, maybe it's you know, much quieter, much smaller population, but it's just as interesting, and it has the same issues. And of course, we have, you know, but at that time, the border issue was really starting to ramp up here politically and physically, and so there's exactly the same issues, but it's quieter in terms of, realistically, it's not talked about as much. It's not out in the, even though, you know, it is, we think it is, but it's not as kind of, there's not as much action around some of those things that there is in the US.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a visibility to it in the US that there isn't here, and in Australia it seems to be largely in the media. I mean, we actually don't see a lot of asylum seekers in Australia. You know, we actually very rarely come across, you know, people who've been accepted as refugees. And I think that it is, in so many respects, so much more fueled by the media than it is by people's actual day-to-day experiences. Yeah.
And you see there's some extraordinary giants here in the conversation. You know, people like Julian Burnside are just extraordinary, you know, wonderful. So it happens, but no.
So why then the return to Perth? Particularly.
Well, we stayed in Melbourne because I was doing my PhD there at RMIT.
Yeah.
But family, and also it's home for us really now. We've been here for a long time, and also I'm not at all sure that the periphery, if I can use that kind of terminology, but I'm not sure that there's not as much. It's not as interesting a place here as it is in other, maybe more central places. You know? I think there's a lot. Western Australia, and not only Western Australia, but places outside the major cities in Australia, have a lot to offer, and are very fertile grounds for doing work, you know, making art.